So I am so excited about today's episode. We're going to be interviewing Tracey Selingo.
Yeah.
She is the founder of Fork Over Love.
You told me about Fork Over Love. It sounds incredible.
Yeah, it is a nonprofit that was born out of the pandemic. So in the midst of the pandemic, Tracey had this concept of taking shuttered restaurants, because all the restaurants were pretty much closed because of the pandemic, and paying the restaurants to prepare meals
Mm-hmm.
and then sharing those meals with people that were dealing with food insecurity.
Wow.
And it was a really creative concept, and I think that she'll probably tell us, but I'm guessing they've probably served over 80,000 meals at this point.
Wow. I mean, just the idea of isn't that the prime example of making lemons out of lemonades? Like here we are in the middle of a global pandemic and she finds a way to help restaurants that were out of business at the time and also people who were going through food insecurity. I can't wait to hear her story because I know a person like that has to have a rich, deep, very interesting story. You're friends with her, but I don't know her yet. So I cannot wait to find out more and hear more and dive deep into somebody who can dream up something like that.
I think, like all women, she had a circuitous path.
Yeah, right. Well, that's what we want to talk about. That's what we talk about here, right?
Exactly.
Is like, what was the path that led to that? Where did the idea come from? How do you handle a global pandemic? When you get an idea during a global pandemic, how do you even act on it, right? There are so many, I just can't wait to see where this conversation goes.
I think it'll be interesting for sure.
It always is. And without any further ado, let's meet Tracey Selingo.
Yes. Well, welcome. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm really excited.
Today we're welcoming Tracey Selingo, and Tracey is a longtime friend of ours, and honestly, one of the first women that we talked about having as a guest on the podcast.
Wow.
So we're so excited to have you, because I think that your life really reflects so much of the questions that we're trying to answer with the podcast, which, with women, we have so many different chapters in our lives, and we're always sort of searching for what's next for us. And you have been an entrepreneur. You've run your own agency, your own advertising agency. You're a Reiki master. You're a shaman. You started an incredible nonprofit organization in the midst of a global pandemic. And you've done it all really with sort of an intuitiveness of following your heart's path, I would say. As a friend, I've sort of gotten to see it firsthand, but it's really been inspirational what you have created in this life that you've built that's very rich and diverse.
Wow. Thank you, Liz.
Yeah.
Thank you for seeing me.
Right. So we're going to really dive into this. And I think that
good.
when people hear your experience and hear how you approach transitions and building out a life that is meaningful to you, I think it will really resonate with other women as they're grappling with this question for themselves.
Wow.
Yeah.
No pressure there, right?
No, none. And so, Tracey, you obviously know Liz better than myself. So I'm so interested in some of your background, just a little to get to know you, because I have a lot of questions about like where you are now and ideas for like what you want to do next. So and Fork Over Love is something that I know you're going to talk about that is really inspiring to me, but where did you start out? Like, how did you get into your adult life and into marketing, and where was your first shift and pivot into, I think, what you called like bringing the heart and the brand together?
So I started out in New York working for a boutique advertising agency, super small. There were, I think, 23 people there when I started. It was a dream job for a junior copywriter, right? I grew up in Northeastern Pennsylvania. And so moving to the city was a major shift for me and not a very comfortable one, right? So I'm in the city, I've got this great job, and it was really difficult, right? Because we were not paid any money. It was $20,000 back then,
Yeah.
right? So there were a lot of experiences there that it was like, should I be happy? Should I be proud? Should I, should I crawl into a ball and cry on the floor? Like it was just so, such a mixed bag, right? Ultimately, after 2.5 years there, I was like, I am just not happy. And I had every reason to be happy.
Yeah, it was your dream job.
It was my dream job.
Yeah.
Right.
Where do you think the source of unhappiness was?
Well, I think it was in not being able to afford where I was living, right? In working ridiculous hours to make that work. And then I had these other interesting things happen while I was there. Like my apartment on the Upper West Side in this beautiful neighborhood was broken into 3 times.
Yeah.
And I was like, can you come back and get the couch? Because it'll be so much easier to move out of here. Like literally lost everything, right?
Wow.
But lost
When you had so little at the time too, right? Like,
but what I lost was my sense of security.
Yeah.
And once that's gone, it's gone, right? So I knew I had to move. I knew I wanted to move. And I had my parents back home were like, you are not moving without a job. Right.
Yeah.
So that search started, and I did, I searched all over the state of Pennsylvania, nearby in New Jersey, New York, everywhere for a good 6 months, and nothing. I could not find anything. And my dad was just adamant. He was like, you are not moving home without a job. Like, no way. Right. So I wrote my dad a letter. And I shipped it FedEx.
Really need to get this. Just why? Why for like? Why did you want to get this? Okay.
I wanted to know that it was received.
Got it.
Got it. Okay.
And so he received it, and he called me up, and he was like, "All right, you could do it." And so packed my bags. I was out of there in, oh my God, I don't know, less than 6 months. And then I just started looking for other places.
I have to know it was in the letter that changed his mindset.
In the letter was, my experience of what it was like to live in this place that had been broken into, to not feel secure, to not have enough money. I experienced food insecurity when I was in New York for about 6 months that they didn't know about. So I just let all that out, and I was like, this is not working, people.
Right.
I feel a thread there that I can relate to, that like I'm independent and I want to do it on my own.
Yeah.
And even if it means I experience food insecurity, like I don't want to ask for help.
Right.
Is that something you struggle with, asking for help?
Well, I didn't ask them for help when I was going through that.
Yeah.
Right. I was just like, I am supposed to your point, I'm supposed to be independent. I'm supposed to be making this work. I'm supposed to be able to figure this out. And I was able to, but not in a way that was really awesome, right?
Yeah.
Figuring out the whole food thing was, you will stay to work. You will make sure you're there when the meeting lets out and you can get whatever is left over, right? You'll work very late at night, so they'll buy your dinner. That was figuring it out. And I just didn't feel good. But I didn't understand then that, 23, 24-year-old had no idea that those were all pings and alerts that would happen throughout the rest of my life, right? Like listening to your gut. I mean, we say that all the time, but what does that really look like when you have to do it? And I was terrified to leave, but I was more terrified to stay.
Wow. And so you moved back home.
I moved back home.
Okay. And then where did you pivot to?
So I pivoted eventually. It took about 6 months. I found a job outside of Philadelphia, stayed there a little while, and then moved in and started working in Manayunk at another agency. So the first agency was run by 4 women, and the second agency was run by 4 men. They were both very small boutique shops, and I rolled with that. I was very happy. I loved it.
And you didn't feel insecure there, like you didn't feel your personal security.
No. Okay. And life was moving on. I got engaged and got married in that process, and so things were starting to move. we eventually wanted to start a family, and then we moved back to Northeastern Pennsylvania, which was when I started my agency. So we moved back for the babysitters.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Some people do.
Would that be your parents?
Both of our parents actually were
Yeah.
both from the area. So,
Okay.
so we moved back, and not just for that reason, but it was a motivating factor to come back to a place that we loved and we knew and start a family.
But I think, that was you acknowledging that you needed the village, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Completely needed the village.
Yeah.
In ways that the village couldn't get away from. Right?
So now you have kids. Was it difficult? Was that move difficult having a husband at the time? Like was his job able to move? Because you have to consider both.
Yep.
You were going to start. Did you know you were going to start your business at that time, or is
No,
that
not at
back?
all.
And then how did that? 'Cause starting a business is a big decision.
It is.
And how old were you at that point?
Yeah.
Just 30.
Okay.
29, 30 when that all happened. So my husband was a lawyer. He was a lawyer locally and then moved to the Philly area to meet me when I moved there.
Okay.
So when we decided to do this, he was like, I can just pivot back home. Right.
Okay.
So that was very easy for him. He went out on his own in the midst of having a 1-year-old and all of that craziness. And my agency was started as a result of him needing to market himself.
Interesting.
So it was all very, very much tied together.
Yeah.
I had freelanced for years, so it didn't feel hard to me. I was like, this will be easy to get this started and to do it. And I was working out of my house.
Yeah.
So I was home raising my children, which was another very big part of doing that. And slowly starting this thing where I was like, I'll help him. It'll be no big deal. I can still do the freelance stuff on the side.
Yeah.
And people started to just notice his advertising. And that's how that started. I didn't have a grand plan. There wasn't a business plan there for it. It's not like, oh, no, start my own agency.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we need to eat.
Right.
Yeah.
So you need to work.
Yeah.
So let's see if we could make this happen. And that's how that grew.
And then when did you decide to start a greeting card company?
So I had the agency. So picture this. So I have the agency. I'm working out of my house. I have now my second child. So I have 2 little boys. They're 13 months apart. I am with them all day.
Yeah.
And then I'm working at night on business.
Yeah.
Right. So needless to say, I got a little burned out.
Yeah.
Okay. And before the greeting card company, I actually pivoted to working as the chair of the communication department at King's College.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
pivoted in to teach some courses, ironically, about advertising and things that I wasn't willing to learn when I had the agency. They're like, oh, you're going to teach XYZ. I was like, great. I am now going to self-teach myself. Help teach this. So I did that. And that was, that did not work out. I was very unhappy. And it was quick. I was like, I don't belong
What made you
here.
unhappy about teaching?
I was managing a department and it
Okay.
was really
I
difficult.
see.
It was really difficult. So
The personality, like
personalities.
Yeah. And I would imagine, I mean, you're a creative, and I mean, academia is not known for its sort of, outside the lines kind
Right.
of approach to things.
Yeah, it was so interesting. Like I loved being with the students and working with them and
Yeah.
having all that time with them. I loved it. Like totally different environment, right? So I'm coming out of advertising, which is driven by deadlines, and you're answering everything as it's dropping in, right? Like you're constantly responding and creating. And then I went there and it was like we were having meetings to schedule the next meeting. And I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
It's just night and day.
Yeah.
And it just didn't feel good, right? Like it was like a very hard fit. And it just wasn't the pace or the environment that I knew my brain needed.
But I think that that's so important that you are so in tune with yourself that hey, this is not a fit. I'm not going to be happy here. Let's just move on. And I think so often that people, they stay in jobs, in places, in marriages, and whatever longer than they should because they're not willing to make that leap.
I think that leap is really, really hard. And I think that leap has to do with your own belief system and a lot of the conditioning that you grow up with, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I got to the point where I was doing spiritual consulting after what felt like an absolute breakdown, I started to realize that I was just looking at things differently. Like I was doing these things. I was making these pivots. I was saying no. And I often, and still to this day, feel nuts when I do it. If be totally honest and transparent, it's like, oh my God, not this, right? Because that's not normal. I think it's not really easy to keep doing. But for me, it's so deep in my bones when it's not right. And the older I get, the faster I know it.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh no, this is just not going to end well. This is not going to feed me, you know?
I would imagine the shift to academia was a little bit for some certainty in terms of job security.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And yet, despite that, it was so soul crushing to you.
Yes.
That you're like, not worth it. I'd rather take the risks. I'd rather have the burnout, you know, because when you were talking about raising kids and having your own marketing firm, I was getting stressed. People like, I was like, how'd you do that? What happened? What? And you're like, okay, so I got burned out. I'm like, that makes sense. And then I did this, and I could understand that was just and so that had to be. So when you decided I can't do this, and but also I get burned out doing that.
Right.
Now what?
So that's when I started the card business. Okay. I came out of academia and it was now what? And I had been doing custom cards for friends for years. So I would just do like birth announcements. I would do these beautiful like handmade wedding invitations and Christmas cards. It was just something I did on the side, right? My free time. Right? So, but I loved doing it. So I was like, I'm going to go after this. I'm going to name the company. I'm going to only focus on that because that was something that just brought me so much joy to do. And I decided to do that. I would land a spot in the National Stationery Show and show up with custom cards and a few lines, and I'll pull the booth together. And I did it within a few months. And I got there and launched it and received an award at the event for the marketing of the card line.
Wow.
For the marketing of the card line. Not the card.
Didn't sell it hard.
That's crazy.
But that was recognized. Yeah. And I came home and I stuck with it maybe till the end of the year. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. I can't shake this. Yeah. I'm trying to shake the marketing thing.
Yeah. Right.
And I can't shake it.
Right.
That led to a complete and utter breakdown. Yeah. That was like, oh my God. I just felt like there was no way to go. Yeah. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't want to go backwards. I couldn't see what forward was. And a friend of mine at the time said, start a blog. I always loved writing, which is why I went into advertising to begin with.
Yeah.
So I started a blog and I was writing to myself. I don't even want to tell anyone I'm doing this. Right. It was really my therapy.
What a perceptive friend who knew you well enough to recommend that.
Right.
And that moment when things are so dark, you can't see your way out of this. The light at the tunnel is so far away that it's just darkness.
That's so true.
Yeah. And in that moment, I imagine you were turning to the people around you. But even that probably felt, I don't know.
I really wasn't.
I have to imagine that was feeling really lonely at that moment, that was a real tough, because even having a husband and kids, this was an internal personal struggle.
Right.
And I'm so interested in how the light came back into the dark and how long that lasted.
So I wasn't sharing that with anyone.
Yeah.
No one knew that. I
Mm.
was just in between things. I was so ashamed. I was disgusted. I was ashamed. I was lost. I was depressed. It probably took 6 months of writing, and it was just it gave me something to focus on.
Sure.
Right. So 6 months in, I decided to name the blog Twisted Pinky. Right. And the premise was like, I had been spending so much time promising everything to everybody else in the world and nothing to myself. Because my youngest son was always like, pinky promise? Like,
Yeah.
right? And I was like, I have focused on everybody. I have given everybody everything I have, and there's literally nothing left.
Yeah.
And so I start these like little blog posts, and they're just about whatever, the sun, like nothing, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm just writing about things I'm experiencing. A few people are following them. And then I'm like, I gotta get serious with this. Like, maybe I should try writing a promise a day. And Facebook was just something that I was like,
Was this at the beginning of Facebook? Like
it kind of was.
It's nice has to be like,
yeah. So it was around 2010. That's probably not the beginning of Facebook, but it was
Close.
it wasn't meta yet,
Yeah. So I started a page and I was like, well, how am I going to do this every day? Like, I don't want to write a huge long thing and share it with the world. So I started just writing one promise a day, and they would be completely random, right? Like, begin again, or, look on the bright side, right?
It was just coming from inside you, something you researched, just this is how I feel.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking right
This
now.
is just what's coming through for me now,
Yeah.
right? Not really understanding where anything's coming from, just sounded like something good. And the most interesting thing is that what I started to notice was that if I wrote about something that wasn't positive, it was happening.
We talked about this the other night. Yeah.
Yeah. Avoid the idiots. And then it was like 10 idiots. Right? It was like, I don't know how long that took, but I was like, well, this is really kind of strange.
So when you said something negative or not in a positive tone, that showed up in the world.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm with you now. Okay.
So I was like, I got to stop that. Right. So I started purposely just putting stuff out that was positive.
Yeah.
And I started getting really happy.
Interesting.
How long did that take after you started?
It was probably like, this whole thing probably took around like 9 to 10 months.
Okay.
All right. And I started to connect with people that through Facebook, through the magic of Facebook,
There was more magic back then than there is now.
There was. Started to connect with people who were, in the spiritual realm, which I wasn't really into.
How was it getting out there, your message? Were you just...
I don't know. People were just following it.
Yeah.
I did start a page. I was posting like one thing a day.
And was it public? So
it was public.
Okay.
It was pages as we know them, right?
Yeah. Were you inviting people, or they were just finding you?
They were just finding me.
Yes.
And then they
So
started to sign up for the blog. And then now there's like this little following happening, right? It's not just my mom reading it every day. And so it just started to grow on its own. There was no outcome. I wasn't like, let me shift this into a business. My head wasn't there at all.
Were you still doing a business at that time, or this was sort of
I
your
don't
focus
know.
on
I
raising
wasn't.
kids?
I was just focusing on this and taking care of my kids.
Yeah.
Right. Just being there. So it really started to gain momentum, and I started to do like little one-off ebook things and stuff like that, just to see if anything would stick. And it was, and I was meeting a lot of really great people. And then I dove into this spiritual class that really ended up being life-changing for me.
And was this work what brought you to spirituality?
Yes.
Like just realizing when I say positive things, it sort of brings positive things. I'm feeling happier.
Yep.
People are starting to follow. I think I have things to say. And now I want to explore this more.
Yep.
Okay.
So I'm out of that like depression.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling better, and my energy is definitely brighter. And I saw this offering for a spiritual class, and I was like, what's that? Right? Like, not even thinking like this
Like
is a
locally
spiritual
or
class.
like a...
No, it was online.
It's online.
It was online. And I was also on Twitter at the time. So I would be pushing the promises out on Facebook and on Twitter. And so I saw this class on Facebook, and then I saw it offered on Twitter. And then I'm seeing it again and again. And I'm like, maybe I should. I go to the sales page. I'm like really considering it, but wasn't anything I was into. Thought it was maybe a little too woo.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
Find your words. You're
On my woo. And so I saw it, and I vividly remember this. I saw it being offered on Twitter for like the 10th time, and signups were closing.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was like, well, if I get a sign that I should do this, I'll do it. And I reached out to the woman who was teaching the class, and I said, I really don't, I don't really consider myself spiritual. I don't know if this is right for me. Like, I'm kind of interested. She said, well, my people normally get feathers as signs. And I was like,
That's so random.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's random.
Whatever. You've got that here, right? So I was like, I guess if I see a feather, I'm going to sign up, right? So I walk into the living room, and my husband was watching The Voice, and it's like their final act, and this woman comes out on stage, and she's wearing these insanely big angel wings made out of feathers.
Oh my God.
And at the end of the song, all these feathers drop from the stage. And I was like, I'm in.
Yeah. There's the sign. There it is.
The Voice. So I dove into this class, and then I dove into another, and then I dove into another. And I just started to learn about energy, and I started to learn all these different healing practices, and it changed my life.
And did they feel woo to you at the time? Or once you got into them, did you realize like there's some meat to this, and there's like
I realized that,
connecting, yeah.
right? Like, did they feel woo? Yeah.
Yeah.
But did that bother me? No.
Okay.
Right? It was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And were you still blogging at this point?
I was.
Okay.
I was. And I did that for years after I continued.
I think it's so interesting that oftentimes when you are looking at how to sort of change your mindset on something, the very first thing they say, very first thing, almost every person says it, gratitude journal at night, right?
Yep.
3 things that you're grateful for. Every single person says it. And I always say, oh yeah, I should do that. And someday I will.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel you.
But so really, without even knowing it, you were sort of creating like a gratitude
I definitely
blog, if you
was.
will.
I definitely
I will
was.
say to that, like I don't write things down. I'm not good at lists and things like that. But when I wake up, always, every morning, anxiety right there, hello, greets me. Because it's like the beginning of the day, especially if it's a work day.
Yeah.
Right. If I pivot at that moment and just start saying thank you, like in my head, and then think of the things I'm thankful for, I find it can push it aside.
What a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like kind of a really, it's like a healing style.
Yeah. Like your cheat.
Yeah.
Way to get your mindset.
Yeah,
right
but
there.
like for your mind, it just
Yeah.
like it just takes. It's like it pushes the things that to the back, and then all of a sudden the good stuff is in the front.
Yeah.
I don't know, but sorry, but
No,
keep going.
that's so
This is
true.
amazing.
Yeah.
So okay, so now you're blogging, but now you're into spirituality classes, and these are different classes you're taking, right?
Yep.
Like, and just sort of, are you so into it? Like, I'm going to be certified in spirituality. I don't even know if that's real, but like, where now do you have a mindset of where you want to go with this, or is it still, I'm just going to feed my interest and my curiosity?
Yeah. That's all I was doing.
Okay.
And I was picking up freelance writing gigs
Yeah.
as this was happening. So it was fine. So like marketing for me has always been here.
Yeah.
Right. But I just was following whatever came up. Right.
Mhm.
And I was learning about myself. And I think for the first time ever, I was understanding about myself and how my intuition lands for me, what that even means, how to listen to it. And that just changed so much for me.
Can I just pause you there for a moment? Because I feel like, and it's probably true for everybody, but I especially feel like it's true for women, there is so much noise in their life and so much demand on their life, whether it's spouses and kids and careers. And how do you quiet yourself enough to hear your inner voice? Because I honestly feel like that's a challenge that a lot of people have.
I think so too. And I think I can only speak from like what helped me get there was understanding what it was and that it was real, right?
Your
like
intuition?
my intuition,
Okay.
right? And how that comes through, right? So your intuition comes through all of your senses, right? And when you can get quiet, when you can start to notice signs, when you can really be present in a situation, you can start little by little noticing what is showing up in that situation. So you might be sitting here having a conversation and you might be struggling with something personally, right? We're all struggling with something, I think.
Sure.
And you might hear a song in the distance, but you might notice that song. Whereas like Michelle might not notice that song. She might not hear it. I might not hear it. But if you're in that flow and that's meaningful to you, it becomes support. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. And I have to share. Do you mind if I share what
No,
happened to us the
please.
other night? So, so Tracey and I are, we have a group of friends and we get together for dinner like once a month. And, I lost my mom in October, as you know, and one of our friends in this group lost her mom about 3 weeks later. My mom had been sick, so it was a little bit more expected, but her mom, totally unexpected. So that was back in the fall. And so we're having dinner at this friend's mother's house because, long story, but that's where we are. And we're done with dinner. We're leaving. We're putting on our coats. We're getting ready to leave. And I don't, I was telling everybody about a dream that I had the night before where I woke up and because somebody said to me in my dream, Liz, wake up. You got to wake up, Liz. Time to wake up. And I said it was so weird because I woke up and I didn't feel like somebody was in my house. Like I wasn't scared. And Tracey asked me, who do you think it was that was, talking to you? And I said, well, if I were to guess, I would say my mom, but I don't feel like my mom has been around. And I turned to our friend Melissa and I said, do you feel like your mother has been here? And I remember I touched her hand and she looked at me and she said, no. And literally at that very moment, the lights went out in the house and then they came back on and then they went out and then they came back on and then they went out and they came back on. It was like we were all standing there like, holy heck, what just happened? And I am not somebody that believes in this stuff, but I am telling you that night, at least one or two moms were there saying, we are totally here.
So I'm so afraid of telling the story because it's going to seem like, because I'm the same way. Like, I'm like, okay, a lot of my beliefs come also from science. I'm very science-based. I want evidence. I want the whole thing. But I do believe that, and science proves that energy does not die. Energy is eternal. And so that brings me comfort, like no matter what, the energy of the people we love it still exists. So that's where my head goes. But like, I struggle with all these things, as I think a lot of people do, but you're telling the story and you told the feather story, and you just told the light story. So I'm just going to share it. Absolutely. And it seems to be mom-based here. Like I lost my mom too, right before you, Liz. And she had been sick and, but it was too soon, as I think we all feel when we lose our moms. And I had decided that for my mom, that the sign would be people are, if you see a cardinal, I'm like, no, my mom loved hummingbirds. And so if I see a hummingbird, that will be a sign that would be my nudge. If that means anything, that would be the thing. Right. And one morning I'm like, but where do you see hummingbirds off season? If you don't have the little feeder, do you know what I mean? I'm like, I don't. And that's why I think I said it, because it's the special thing. Like you don't see them everywhere. And I was getting ready for work one morning and I listened to podcasts while I get ready for work. And I had a very difficult decision I had to make, and I followed my gut which I've learned if I do that tends to be the right answer. And I talked to my mom. I'm like, Mom, I hope that was the right answer. I'm like, I'm not sure if I think it might have been something with my kids. I'm not sure if that was right or wrong, but it's Maine. I hope it was the right decision. I wish you were here to talk about it. And on Office Ladies, which is one of my favorite podcasts, Jenna Fisher gave Angela Kinsey a birthday present, and she's opening it on air. And she opens up the present and she's like, oh my God, it was some tumblers, and painted on the tumbler. She's like, oh my God, it's a hummingbird painted on a tumbler.
Wow.
And I was like, got it. It was just, and I'm like,
so
no,
great.
it's coincidence, right? I'm like trying to do the math. I'm like, that's no, and it just didn't feel like it. It felt like it was like a way of saying,
I love
you did
that.
right. Yeah.
I love that you accepted that as a sign in the way that it was delivered, right? Because I think so often people are like, no, it's got to be a hummingbird outside my window, right? No, it's like every time you see anything or hear anything related to that, that's the language. That's how you guys are communicating now. So it's incredible.
Yeah.
Both of those stories.
Yeah.
And it's so real. Like, I'm like, you need proof. That's good.
Well, and of course, then there was like an entire chat after dinner, like, what do you think? Do you think?
I know.
One of our
The quantum world could
it's like she works in like electrical contracting, and she's like, I am telling you guys, that could not possibly happen. It was terrible. It was funny.
It was a beautiful.
It was
a beautiful moment, and I'm sure you felt that when
I did.
when you were listening.
That's what your story. I got chills when you told that story for those two reasons, because it just reminded me of my experience, and that's why I shared.
And by the way, I totally agree with you that I think that when somebody passes away, their energy still exists, and I think
that's science.
It's part of you.
Yeah.
So I think you're spot on with that.
Yeah, that's like it. To me, that's the comfort. Like, even black holes cannot destroy energy. They've proven that now. So don't send me on my quantum dot.
We need to pivot. Got to talk that sign in physics.
It's gonna be a while. Okay. So
you're embracing sort of your spirituality and how it can serve as a guide in your life.
Yeah, and figuring out. It was in those early classes that I figured out that experiences that I had when I was a little girl were really medium experiences, but I never even thought twice about things, and then suddenly I was like, oh, that was pretty clear communication I was having there. So I just dove into it.
Wow. So where did that go? And now what happens next?
Didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So it's all right
thing.
here.
Yeah.
So I did that up until the pandemic.
Yeah.
And so I was at the time when 2020 rolled around, I was teaching online courses. I was offering Reiki to clients in person and through distance. I was moving at a pretty good pace, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then everything shut down, and my boys returned home from school, and we're all in panic mode. And I just stopped. Like, I didn't feel up to even doing as much as the distance sessions for Reiki, which I kind of felt guilty about. I was like, of all the times I should be doing this stuff, it's now, right? And I just couldn't. Like, I felt kind of paralyzed.
Can I just, and before we move on to the next piece, so you're doing all of the spiritual work, and I only know this because I know your husband. I love your husband. He's great.
Yep.
But he doesn't strike me as a guy who's really going to be into it.
Right.
Right. How do you balance that? Because I think it's got to be, you're all jazzed. I mean, this is really impactful in your life. And he's probably like, yeah, that's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah. So one of the hardest things I had to do was like share this with him and my family. It's like, oh, hey, by the way, I hope this doesn't change anything, but I just discovered that I'm a medium, right? And I truly, everybody's a medium, right? Yeah. It's like, but I was willing to embrace it, right? And I was willing to and he was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah. Well, how did the conversation go? He was,
it went well. He's,
He is a great
been
guy.
blessed by his support
Yeah.
through everything.
Yeah.
He was great. He was basically like, okay, this doesn't really affect me. Carry on. Like any special things that you do now.
You do you.
I'm thinking about dinner.
We have a lot of jokes about that. He has come along for the ride, right? He was accepting.
Yeah.
He did not make a big deal about it. I had, other people in my life who did make a big deal about it. So it was like, how am I going to deal with this? And what I decided, I think in direct response to having all of those spiritual courses under my belt was I decided I was just going to live my life.
Yeah.
I was going to use it. I figured it out. I was going to use it to my own advantage and I was going to carry on.
And like, where were you in life at this time that you had the confidence to just, what do you think gave you the confidence?
Over 40.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think what gave me the confidence was I knew how happy I was.
Yeah.
Right. And I knew how helpful it was. Like, I refer to those years now as like the la years, right? But I'm like very blessed that I was able to do that. And honestly, that I had the space to do that. And I had the space to create those classes and work with people in that way. It's a very different world out there.
Yeah.
Other than that. So I had a good solid 12 years of just being in that zone with people in that way, who were also, we're all kind of like-minded and everybody's helping everybody. It was a nice cocoon to be in prior to getting thrust into
the pandemic.
Like a real,
and I remember this moment in my office. So everything is shut down and I'm up there in my little studio walking around and laying on the Reiki table for myself, like, just accept my own Reiki. And I remember having this moment where I was like, I don't want to work alone anymore, right? Because we're stuck alone for that whole year. I really want to be in close contact with other people in the community because everything I was doing, like 99% of it was online. So I did have like a handful of local Reiki clients, but everything is happening online. Sometimes I'm meeting people, sometimes I'm not. Like it's strange looking back on that.
Yeah.
But in the midst of all of that happening, was the idea for Fork Over Love that came through that I was running away from. I was like so terrified in the midst of everything that I'm having this idea that I don't know what to do with.
So what is this idea? What is Fork Over Love? And
So-
how does this idea hit you?
So Fork Over Love is a nonprofit that I eventually started after 9 months of trying not to start it. The significance of that time frame was dead on. Like I get it. But I just started thinking in, I think it was like May of 2020, like there's so many restaurants that are struggling. There's so many people who need food. Every time I opened the newspaper, there was another photo of a long line of people at a food pantry. And I was like, this just seems silly. Like, it seems like we should be able to fire up these kitchens to feed these people. And then I didn't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
I was like, I like to eat in restaurants. That's about as far as that went. I didn't feel like I had any more insight other than just there's a problem here that needs to be fixed. And so I ran away from that. I like started having conversations with people just like, hey, Liz, do you think this is a crazy problem? But, and people would be like, yeah, that'd be a good idea. And how you're going to figure that out. And then I would just wander away. And I just honestly kept hoping it would change.
Yeah.
And then I have this moment where I'm like, I don't want to work alone anymore. And then I have 50 more conversations with my husband where he's like, please stop talking about this idea. Go do something, right? And so the two things happened. I had a conversation with him in December. And really, this is like the 20th conversation we've had. So like everything is gathered except for the people, right? So there's restaurants are gathered and giving advice, and there's seed money, and there's like all these things.
You just skipped over to suddenly have restaurants and seed money. How did that happen?
Just through conversations with friends who owned restaurants, right?
Okay.
Can this happen? Can you help me figure it out? What would this cost? Is
Yeah.
this realistic?
Mhm.
You know, are you in a situation that you can do this now? And people are like, yes, please do it. And I'm like, I'll get back to you in a month.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So like all these little parts and pieces are suddenly coming together, and I'm still just beyond terrified. And so I'm having a conversation with Dave on December 23rd. And
Is your husband?
yeah.
Okay.
He's like, what are you afraid of? And I'm like, I just have no business in this zone. And he said to me, when are you going to figure out that you don't have to have all the answers?
Huh.
And such a simple statement and such a massive light bulb, right? And I'm like, type A, I'll figure this out.
Mhm.
I was like, okay, well, okay, maybe. So I went to bed that night, and I asked for a sign. And I was like, if you give me a sign,
And who are you asking?
I'm asking the universe.
Okay.
That's like my belief system.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
this greater energy,
Yeah.
right? So I say to the universe, first thing in the morning, if I get a sign, I will do this. I would love that sign to be before I finish my first cup of coffee. And I want it to be unmistakably clear.
Yeah.
It's got to hit me over the head. If I don't get it, I am going back to my normal, peaceful life,
Yeah.
or like, you're
Yeah.
not following me around
Yeah.
with this, right?
Then we're done. Okay. Is that a deal?
And I'm serious, and they say if you like flip a coin in the air, like, you know what you want before it hits the ground. And I think I wanted peace. I think I was like just so terrified. And so I asked for this. I wake up the next morning. It's Christmas Eve. I walk into the kitchen. I grab my cup of coffee. I sit down, and I am not a read your email first thing in the morning kind of person,
Mhm.
but I picked up my phone, and there's a message there from a dear friend who's a priest. And I had talked to him about this in August, and he was like, that would be a good idea. Just reallocate funds. And I was like, that's not helpful. Yeah. So there's a note from him. I had not seen him since August. And it said, I woke up this morning and you were in my thoughts during prayer service. I hope everything's okay. I just want to wish you a Merry Christmas. And I want you to know that there's an unmistakable spirit inside of you. And I was like,
There it is.
here we go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Here we go. Like,
We're off.
all right.
Mhm.
I think I may have called you the day after.
Yeah.
I called a few people who came to mind. I was like, okay, who's going to do this? Who's going to be on this board? With everyone I talked to, I said, who would you recommend? And it was all just organic. Like within 2 weeks, the organization was formed. In a month, we were delivering food in a parking lot after a blizzard. And it just has never stopped.
So how does that? What does the organization do? How does it feed? How does it handle food insecurity, and how does it help the community? How do you work with the restaurants and deliver the food?
So we partner with only independent restaurants. We pay them to provide takeout meal that's consistent with what they offer from their menu.
Mhm.
And we, in turn, give that food to folks who are food insecure. Now, the way that it started in 2021 is very different than the way that it operates now. But we were in an emergency situation. We were in a different parking lot every week. And we would purchase anywhere between 300 and 400 meals, and then move to a different location, announce that we would be there, partner with whoever had that location was willing to open that parking lot up to us, and we would distribute food.
And I just want to say, because I don't think you even realize how impactful this was at that time. So we're talking about January of 2021. Restaurants have been shuttered.
Yeah.
Okay. Mandatory closed. They've lost their livelihood. And suddenly you have Tracey who says, hey, if you can make 100 meals for me, I'm going to pay you $1,000. And they were like, got it, done. right?
Wow.
And so they drop off 100 meals, and she would get it from like 3 different restaurants. So we'd have a total of 300 meals. And then people would pull up in their cars, and literally, if the food line was going to start at 5, they were lined up down the block, probably around 4:30, maybe 4:15. Masks on. They had masks. I think we made that mask. We did. We had Pork Over Love branded masks, right? Said you touchless delivery. So they would pop their trunk, and you would drop the food in the trunk or in the back seat, and they would drive off. But I am telling you, you have to remember, we were all in isolation. So you have these people who are dealing with food insecurity, who are by themselves, and suddenly they're engaging in the most hands-off way, but with other people in the community.
Yeah.
Like that part of it. And then eventually over time, the mask came off, you were talking to them through the window. But I literally would see, when we would work those lines at the very beginning, you'd see people, and I wasn't working them as much as Tracey and some others, but you would see people that were so closed off at the beginning, and 2 months later, they were different people.
Wow.
And I just don't think that you have to remember that impact, because you really stepped in at a point where people were really quite desperate for human contact, for nourishment, for saving their businesses. It was really a big deal.
Yeah. And I think that's what made it work. Right. I think that, and I've noticed this since, even if we get into a little bit of a pickle, right, and we have to put a call out for volunteers, and we're like, we really need your help. People really want to help. They just don't always know how, right? So I think Fork Over Love gave people, it certainly gave people food, but for everyone who was working and helping behind the scenes, from the board to the volunteers, and the donors and the people who were opening their spaces to us, it was plugging a hole for them, and it was making it easy, right? It was like, oh, this can be done, and this can be easy, and this can be really helpful. And what I learned just from being able to observe all of that over the last 4 years is that we really are all just hungry for something, right?
Interesting.
Everybody.
There's different kinds of hunger and different kinds of insecurity.
Yeah.
And you probably saw a lot of that. Yeah.
We did, and we saw it change. During the time period when Liz was talking about, we decided out of the gate, we were going to make this space as welcoming as possible, so that it didn't matter who you were, you can come. So we did free or pay it forward. And we said, just come. It doesn't matter what you need. Everybody right now is struggling to put food on the table, or struggling for some reason. Yeah. So if you're struggling, please show up. Right. And we had people come and, eventually got close to us, and we would hear their stories, and they were taking care of a sick parent. So they were there.
And were they coming to a place at this point, or were they still coming through the parking lots?
Always through the parking lots. But the parking lots would shift. We would at different places. Yeah. And I do remember I loved working we had a bucket, a pay it forward bucket. And I loved working that, where, you just say, hey, if you want to pay it forward, and people would throw in whatever they could. And sometimes it was just a thank you note.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. But I distinctly remember this guy coming through, and he was probably in his mid 40s, and he was driving a truck, and, it was a decent truck. And he said, you have no idea, both my wife and I are working, and my wife has cancer. And it's all she can do to just, get out of bed and do what she has to do. This meal is a godsend for us. So again, I thought that was very unique, where there was no judgment.
Right.
Whatever you needed, you needed.
Yeah.
And no judgment.
So where'd it go from there? So that was 4 years ago.
That was 4 years ago. So we've partnered with 95 restaurants over the course of 4 years. We've grown exponentially. We've served 85,000 dinners, reinvested over 850,000 back into the restaurant community. And today, we partner with a number of different nonprofit organizations. So, like over the course of time, we've partnered with 57. We've just recently honed ourselves into like program buckets, right? Because we're still really dedicated to trying to find families who are struggling and who are falling between the cracks, right? We're trying to find people who are working really, really hard to make life better, and they still just can't seem to make those two ends meet. So we have partnerships with family and health service agencies. We have partners with early learning and childcare. That I was like, oh, that's an easy one, right? But they're working. And we have partners with a number of different college campus food pantries. And so I think the thing that we deliver that's different is that we are delivering this chef-made cooked meal, which is really like the power of a hot meal, right? It's like, how many times have you either brought or received a hot meal when you needed it? And that's what Fork Over Love is, right? And so we put on a dose of love on top of that. You know, there's love notes that sometimes go out with the meals. There's our volunteers who are like not afraid to hug or, you know, or sit and talk. And it really is who we are, because there's nothing more precious than that connection. So for me personally, it's everything. It's like all these things that we've talked about tonight, like tied together into that.
Yeah.
Which I would have never in a million years seen coming.
How could you? I mean, you're that young woman getting her first copywriting job,
right?
You just can't predict some things, right?
Exactly.
But it seems like following your intuition, following your gut, just not accepting what didn't feel right. Sort of all and going through some darkness, right? That I think it's important to know that part of the journey is okay and sometimes necessary, right?
Totally.
That when you're at your lowest, you learn a lot about who you are and about what you want and what you don't want. And I think some people struggle to get out of it,
right?
You know, but if you can, and you just like started writing every day, kind of, you know, followed something that was telling you to do this, and then got to here. So now you're making this huge impact in the community, you know, feeding people, bringing them love. I think it's so much more than food, what you're talking about, like what you do, right?
Yeah.
I think it's back to community. It's food, it's community. It's that sense of connection. So where does it go from here? Where are you at now? What is your intuition telling you at this moment?
So that's a very good question. It's great to be here on What's Next. I am noodling right now. So I stepped out of the CEO position at Fork Over Love at the end of December.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, "Why did you do that?" And I'm like, "Because I want to see it grow."
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so if I stay, I believe that, you know, I'm never going anywhere, right? Tied to this baby forever. But if I stay in that position and we don't develop the infrastructure and we don't bring in staff, like that's not really sustainable, right?
Right.
And so that was my thought process there. What's next for me, I think, is going to be a combination of all of these things. Again, I can't tell you exactly where that's going to be, right? Right now, I am sort of in creative rehab with myself. Burnout is real, right? I mean, I shared with the board last October that I wanted to step back at the end of December. And I was, and still am, a little afraid. I mean, it's really difficult work on a lot of different levels. And so the things that I was missing when I was in that role, literally having to learn every aspect of that business, is that I really miss being creative. And that's kind of where my heart space always is. I love creating things. I
Yeah.
think that's why I loved being in advertising initially. It's like, it's always something different. It's always changing. I love learning. I love researching. So I'm like learning and researching, and it's like a nice fast pace. So I don't know where it's going to go.
So can you just do what you did the last time? Be like, I need the sign, like, or
Absolutely.
Can you ask for, like, I've always, I've always thought, like, if you're asking for it, like, you're gonna be disappointed. It just comes when it comes.
Right.
But you were like, no, I'm intentional in my
Right.
ask and
Right.
exactly how I want it and when I want it. I mean, is that something you're gonna do, or are you just sort of also just waiting to feel out what you think your heart is looking for? Like,
It's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And I had I just have like so much learning from Fork. It really
Yeah.
opened my eyes, especially in the whole nonprofit sphere and what's happening, and such an up close look at how and what it's like for people to struggle, which, I'm embarrassed to say didn't understand the actual depth of that
Mhm.
before. And so there's a part of me now that's like, now I need to take
Now
that
you know,
someplace,
right?
right?
Right.
You can't not know that. And so I am waiting, and I do know that something will percolate
Yeah.
to tie all of these ends together. It just has to,
Yeah.
right? But in the meantime, just being in the space of being able to create again
Yeah.
and do some things that really bring me peace and allow me to catch my breath.
Yeah. This is like, we were
It's
talking
hugely-
about white space before.
Yes.
So you're in the white space
I
right
am.
now.
I
Like, you
am.
need the quiet to
Yes.
to celebrate and amplify the bigger things.
Yeah.
And so you're in that quiet space between those amazing
Yep.
things that you find, right?
Yeah.
So
Floating in between.
if you were looking into a crystal ball, what are some things you could definitely see in your future? Like, not that you have to have that figured out, but like, what are, like, if you look 5 years into your future, what do you see, even if it's a feeling, if it,
So something that really that really has it's going to land somewhere. I just don't know where it's going to
Yeah.
land. Is my experience of moving out of that cozy little cocoon and into this crazy world I'm resisting. Resisting
just like
being
you
colorful,
resisted
but
work over love, right?
Yeah,
They're getting
yeah.
to,
Or the nonprofit
the
community.
nonprofit community and the business world, right? So it really did, it really did separate me from the rainbows and unicorns that I was used to playing with, that I loved playing with. And I was like, whoa, what is going on? And I think I said this to you, but when I was doing the spiritual courses and the healing and all that stuff, I had this course that I would run every year called the Field Trip, right? So it was like a year-long experiential dive into your intuition, learn all these different modalities. I worked with just 12 women every year to do that. And I would schedule weekly Zoom calls with them at noon. Now I'm like, who's getting on a Zoom at noon? Like, it was insane that I even thought that they could drop what they were doing at work to jump on these calls, right? But I was honestly so far removed from it
Yeah.
that I think that women have unique needs that need to be met, obviously. And I feel like the world that we're operating in business-wise is a very challenging one.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
Ah.
But I think that, and I hope to find what this blend is that can make it real and really help people understand and tap into their own power and be okay with that, whatever that is, right? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't have people shutting me down. I didn't have people saying like, stop talking about your intuition or put that away or not out in public. I had people who were like, okay, good for you. That's great. Bang that drum. And I feel like we all need it. Right? Because I think the three of us can have this very conversation. And so hiding that is not helpful.
Yeah.
Right? And hiding that it harms the entire community.
Yeah.
Like Fork Over Love was a board of 7 women,
Yeah.
right? Most of the volunteers are women. And I'm not saying it's an all-female organization, but
Right.
I am saying that like there was so much power in those who stepped up to help. And 90% of them in the beginning, really hands-on work, were women.
Mhm.
And so why aren't we solving the issues that need to be solved, right? And it's because it's so hard to operate in this framework.
There are still social constructs that work
There are.
against just our, the natural powers we have, right?
Right.
I read this interesting article in the Wall Street Journal during the pandemic that said, during the pandemic, more women were promoted to CEOs because when everything goes to shit, a woman doesn't back away. Like, they're like, okay, I'm in it, and as a result, they got, promoted to CEO. And I thought, how interesting is that?
Right.
That only when everything goes crazy is it like, okay, well, let's see if a woman can solve it then.
Right. Right.
And I will tell you that I was in a meeting after the pandemic, and we're looking at some candidates for a position. And we had this great candidate who had been like interim and really done a phenomenal job and during the pandemic. And I remember a man said to me, I hope he never listens to this podcast, actually. He said to the room, he said, well, great, she did a great job during the pandemic, but can she lead when there's not a pandemic? And my response was, did you actually say that out loud? Because I heard it. And he immediately shut down. But I was like, really? Like, it's harder to lead when there's not a global pandemic that you're dealing with. But that was sort of the issue of, and it surprised me. It surprised, and again, he's a very smart guy, very nice guy, and but for some reason, there's just this, this bias out there.
There definitely is.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're thinking, or when you're looking at your journey so far, and if somebody's listening, like, and kind of in those moments where you're listening to yourself, what advice would you give to somebody who's like also in that moment, which you're kind of in now? It's like, it's time to pivot. Do you go to spirituality? Do you go to where are you looking right now for like to try to figure it out? Because it's a very natural place to be in.
Yeah, it is. I'm looking right here.
Yeah.
I'm just
You're just
what's here.
Yeah.
Like in every moment, in every conversation, what's here? And how do I feel?
Yeah.
Right? Because I know what it's like to not feel good, which is really the thing that pivots me out of every situation. This doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel aligned, right? It's something's off. I can't pinpoint it, but really, like, what's here?
What would you say? And I'm just asking this because I think this is the case for a lot of women too. I think fear is one of the big, the big like things holding you back, because, and it's not fear not based in reality. I mean, it's fear like, well, I have mouths to feed. I have responsibilities. I don't have time to play or to listen to my intuition. I have bills that have to be paid next month.
Right.
And if I don't do this thing that I hate, that doesn't get done.
Right.
How do you think, I don't know if you've ever had to navigate that, but I think that's something that
It's a reality.
It's a reality that a lot of women find themselves in. Maybe they don't have a partner who can pick up when they can balance each other at different times when one's struggling or whatnot, or just the reality of like this job pays me a lot of money and I hate it with all my heart, but I've got to do it, or whatever the scenarios could be different. What do you think?
I think it's a great question. I feel like you might not have time to play, but you have time to plan.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're being stopped by fear, I think what's greater, the fear of staying where you are
Mm-hmm.
or the fear of going someplace where it can change,
Yeah.
right? Because if you're going to stay in place because of fear, then nothing's going to change. That's only going to get worse. Like if there's enough of that in you where you're like, something has to change, but I'm too afraid to leap, then you have to come up with a plan. Like whether that plan means you're going to have to really save for the next 6 to 12 months, do it, right?
Mhm.
Like, because that's just a lack of power there,
Yeah.
right? Like if you're a person who needs to have 5 things in place before you'll make that leap, then get those 5 things in place.
You said lack of power. I think sometimes that is 100% true. And I think it's also lack of possibility.
Yep.
Not seeing that there's anything else possible. So I'd like to plan, but if I want to plan, but I don't see a possibility past, my hand here, like, because you can excuse yourself into staying put. Right.
But I think that that's why the period where you were writing the blog is so powerful.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where you changed the energy.
Right.
And you made the other stuff possible.
Yep.
And I think that is something people can do. I mean, they don't have to have a public blog, but they could be writing every day and it's going to change their energy and suddenly things will pop up.
And maybe it's not right. I mean, it's riding a horse or going for a walk. There's something to just shift the energy and like that. So you're not, I guess the worst thing is to giving into that stuckness and give it, just like something to shake it, like something to like repel against it, and your writing did that for you. Right?
Yeah. And so my writing to me is something that has been there from like the time that I could write, right? That's just like how I dial in, and it's easy not to do it.
Yeah.
When I'm busy or, life is stressful, right? But that's the thing that does bring me back. And that's the thing that connects me. Like if I could start writing and I can get into the zone of it and then I lose myself. And so what's the thing for you where you lose yourself? And I think everybody has this.
Yeah.
And it's not anything that's like, it's not rocket science.
Some people call it the zone, right?
Yeah,
when you're in the zone,
you're in the flow.
The
right?
flow, yeah. When I'm into a design that I love, like hours can go by and feel like minutes. It's relativity.
Right.
Back to quantum.
But if you're in a like really bad place, right, or you're stressed, or you're feeling stuck, or you're just really fearful because of a very real situation that you may be in, can you carve 5 minutes to do something that might put you in your zone? Because when I started writing that blog, it wasn't for long. I wasn't spending a long time each day. It was the practice of doing it. And it was very simple. And it was something that I loved.
And consistent.
Right? So, I mean, there were years after that where I was very consistently making bread and drinking wine on what I called the Jesus diet. And that put me in a zone. I love that diet, by the way.
My favorite diet.
I think a big part of it is just really understanding like what makes you tick.
Yeah.
And then giving that a little bit of attention.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? And that's something, because I feel you're saying that and I'm like, I'm trying to help my son find that now too, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's your thing that like when you're doing it, just time passes. You were just enjoying yourself. Besides video games, I get it. That can't be on the list. Well, maybe it can be. Maybe it can be. Maybe there's something there. I don't know. But yeah, and then the other thing you said before that I think a lot of people can relate to, is that when things didn't work out the way you thought they were supposed to, as a very type A and very bright and somebody who ambitious, successful. When you didn't have that stuff anymore, you said you felt shame. That was the word you used. And because maybe that was part of your identity, or like, how did you grapple with that and not just get past it, but it seems like that I have a feeling that would never occur to you anymore, right? Like that's not something that would hit you today, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, I honestly, when I made the decision to step back from Fork, it hit me again. And I was like, oh man, there it is. Really? You coming back at me?
Yeah, interesting.
We're through this.
Yeah.
And I was very grateful that it did, because I caught myself and I was like, that's not who I am.
Yeah.
That role is not who I am.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So what am I? And it's funny. Like, I think that we do attach.
Yeah. Oh, for
Right?
sure.
We attach to the role, we attach to the job, we attach to whatever, but that's not who any of us are.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
but it's easy to forget that.
So
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so trying to come back and trying to remember that, like, that's not me. I kind of chuckle when I just see like different Instagram handles, and I was looking at one the other day, and I can't remember the exact name, probably, thank goodness, but they identified as their dog's mom. And I was like, come on.
Yeah.
Is that who you are?
Right.
That's one of many things. Right?
I didn't think about that.
Yeah,
So like,
and I think we are just so multifaceted that to ever attach to one thing is a disservice to all the others.
Right.
And it just puts us into this weird space where when it's gone,
yeah.
you become ashamed.
And I think that happens to high achieving people who have like worked hard in one thing, and then you feel like, I can't give this thing up because this thing is me now. Right. Whether it could be the legal field, architecture, medical, like it's like, that's me. But like, people see me as this thing. And if I don't have this thing, what are people going to see me as?
Right.
I know, but I think that's the lesson. Honestly, that's the lesson that I learned from you all the time, is that there's no reason to confine yourself to one thing.
Right.
That, you have built this very rich, like, curiosity-filled life that is just interesting. And I think that everybody needs to learn that lesson, that just because you're a doctor doesn't mean you can't be, whatever, a cabaret singer on the weekends. I mean, whatever it is, but and everybody has these creative outlets. And I just think that you are such a great example of living that diverse life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm also saying, just kind of looking at it outside in, like the last time you were here is when you discovered something really cool through the writing, and then where that brought you, I mean, that's certainly, I feel like where it's going to happen again. And it seems like every time you get to that next thing, it's always something like even bigger and brighter, and like more, because you're coming with like these new sets of skills and these new understanding. Like you said, your whole perspective opened up and shifted when you realized how many people out there.
Right.
Now you had to see, you needed help. You said to Liz, you see me, and like now you see them, like you see that there is need out there, right? And that maybe there's something in that, But if you were, what would your 25-year-old self say to you right now, do you think?
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Didn't see that coming.
No.
No. Maybe. Who knows?
What would you say to her?
Yeah.
Probably, you could do that reverse kind of healing. Keep going. Right?
Yeah.
Stop worrying.
Yeah.
I think.
You don't have to. What have been your greatest resources? Like if you were to say, if you were to say to somebody, like, this is something, whether it was a book or whether it was a course, like maybe taking that first spirituality course, what were the resources in your life that you think anybody could benefit from this?
It's going to sound strange, but there's this little Rumi book that I absolutely love, right? So it's 365 days of Rumi. Now, Rumi's writings were all based in love. They're spiritual without being spiritual. There's something there, I think, for everybody. Everyone could benefit from the practice of a book like that, or finding a book like that, and waking up every single day and reading one page, which sounds so simple, right? But it's guidance, and it's just based in sacred texts.
Yeah.
grounding yourself there before you pick up the phone, before you start running, before you, maybe even pour that cup of coffee, just taking that time to be with yourself and to be quiet before you have to start moving, I think is the single healthiest thing anybody can ever do for themselves. Resource wise, any meditation site, I'm thinking of Insight Timer, which I absolutely love. Resources like that you just feel maybe tugged to, just lean in.
So convince me. I hear it. I believe it. It's 3,000 years old. Convince me that meditation makes a difference.
It does.
Yeah.
100%.
How do you not think it makes a difference?
I believe it does, but every time I try it, I am so bored.
How do you
To
try it?
tears. Be quiet. Listen to this thing.
You're
You have
thinking
somebody
too much. You're not supposed to be thinking.
It's like yoga. Yoga bores me to tears. I have tried yoga so many times and I'm like, I am so bored. And I think I'm doing something wrong. Or I'm not letting it in enough. Right. But because I know and I have seen the difference it makes for other people. Even there's a gentleman I worked with for years. He's just he was the hardcore guy at this retail group I worked for, and straight talker, straight shooter, the whole thing. And he got cancer and he started to meditate. And he said it was absolute life-changing. And he's just not the person who would ever, I would ever see talking of meditation. So I know it's real. I know it is. And he loved yoga too. He's it made a big difference. It helped with his healing. He's still with us, thank God. Right.
Yep.
I get it, but I struggle with it. There's got to be other me's out there. There are
for
people,
sure.
there are so many hardcore yoga and meditation people, and I believe it, but I'm really struggling to practice it or get into it or find time for it or think it's going to make a difference. It works for everybody else. I don't think it works for me,
So where do you lose yourself? Where's your zone?
Oh, in terms of, it'd definitely be designing. If I'm creating in any, it could be writing, it can be drawing, it can be, but it can be researching. If I'm creating, if I am thinking up something that excites me about the future, it can be planning something, but I need, my mind wants to create constantly.
So that's your meditation. Your meditation isn't, you don't have to sit on a mat.
Yeah.
And you don't have to, sit in lotus on a mat and hum or do any of that. You don't have to follow any traditional meditation. Meditation is doing an act where you can just completely lose yourself.
Well, that shows it for me for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think anything that you're doing, that you're creating, and you're just focused on creating, because that's probably what happens, right?
Yeah.
You're just in it. That's meditation.
Yeah.
And that's where you should focus, because that's what's going to work for you, right? It's not, I think meditation is, there certainly are, I should say, a number of practices that work and that work for many people, and they're tried and true, and that's great.
Yeah.
I just don't think that we should all be defining meditation in that way, right? If writing does it for you, start writing.
Yeah.
Or make it enough of a practice that you're in that zone on a weekly basis, and that's your meditation. You just have to change what it looks like.
Yeah. And make it fun. Sometimes.
Yeah.
My work is also, but just, I know when I'm excited to do something, and I can't wait to get at it. That's my happy place. So. Oh, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think that this has been this has been amazing. And I hope a lot of people listen to this podcast, because there are so many lessons that apply to every chapter of your life. So you sparked us for sure.
So sparked.
You sparked me.
This has been wonderful, and we're absolutely bringing you back to find out where your journey goes from here. I'm just really excited about it. So we hope you will come back, and this has been awesome, Tracey. Thank you so much.
Thank you both. I really love talking with you.
Same.
Great. What a great interview.
I know. They always are, Liz.
They are. I get so inspired, so sparked.
Yep. We should have called the show something like Spark Me.
Oh my gosh, that is brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you. You thought of it. But yeah, these are great interviews and we want people to hear more. So if you enjoyed that interview, please hit like or subscribe. It takes a second and it helps us get this message out to more people. And if you got something out of it, leave a review.
Absolutely. I mean, that means so much. And also engage with us.
Yeah,
We want to hear from you and connect with you, and hopefully even connect some of our guests with the Spark Me community.
Because we are going to read every review, good or bad, right?
Yeah.
And we want honest feedback, and we want to be in communication with you because we are building a community here.
Absolutely.
This is going to grow past just a podcast in our vision for this, right? And so help be part of the ground floor of this community.
So in order to do that, you can go to sparkmepodcast.com, our
nailed it.
website. 8 time is the charm. Like the charm, right?
Well
8
done.
time is the charm. And or you could follow us on Instagram at sparkmepodcast.
Perfect. Way to go, Liz. You nailed that for sure. And we can't wait for you to hear more and to grow with us in this wonderful
Journey.
new adventure and journey that we're creating.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thank you.
Thanks.